Welcome to Bear With Us, the podcast where two women bravely explore the High Line.
One charming town and quirky event at a time.
We're here for the people, the stories, and the small moments that make this place special.
And don't worry, zero bears.
Probably.
Welcome back to Bear With Us, the podcast from Bear Paw Development, where we share the people, places, and projects shaping North Central Montana. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julia. Today's episode is a special one for the city of Havre, as we sit down with both the outgoing and incoming mayors during a time of leadership transition.
We're honored to be joined by Doug Kaercher, Havre's outgoing mayor, who has served the community with dedication and leadership,
as well as Wade Bitz, Havre's incoming mayor, who is stepping into the role as the city looks ahead for its next chapter.
This conversation is a chance to reflect on where Havre has been, progress made over the past several years, and the opportunities and challenges ahead.
Doug and Wade, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. I really appreciate having the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. This is going to be fun.
And they mean that. They're definitely not scared of this. So welcome to Bear With Us. Our first question is for Wade. What cartoon bear do you think would make the best mayor?
Well, Yogi, of course.
I like it. I like it.
That's always
Everybody loves
every
Yogi.
cartoon bear question. It's been Yogi.
I like it. Why?
Well, honestly, it was the only one that came to mind.
Well, that's the one people would vote for then.
Yeah, everybody loves him. But Doug, you aren't off the hook here. What cartoon bear do you think would make the worst mayor?
That's a hard one. First thing that comes to my mind is Smokey the Bear. But I don't know if he's a cartoon or not.
He's
Yeah.
got a one-track mind, I guess. He's just got the one thing he does.
And what do you think we should spend this money on? Only you can prevent Forrest.
Or Baloo the bear. He's quite gluttonous and lazy.
Yeah. And sings a lot.
Yeah. There is that. Well, you survived the bear question. However, as we all know in the state of Montana, and as anybody who's listened to this podcast knows, we're a podcast divided.
We are.
And this weekend is a pretty big weekend for Montana. So where do you guys stand on the game on Saturday?
Well, for me, you got to tell me what game.
Cat Grizz 2.0.
The second Cat Grizz game of the year.
Oh, I was going to say, didn't we already have a
We
cat game?
did, yeah.
It's a playoff Cat Grizz. First time ever.
Yeah.
I went to Bozeman, went to school in Bozeman, so I guess I'm going to have to go with Montana State.
Boom.
All right. I'm outnumbered so far. I'm kind of counting on you.
Well, I come from a family of Grizz, although I did not personally go to Missoula. But my wife and my sisters were all Grizz alums, so my allegiance lies with the Grizz.
As it should.
How dare you?
Well, once
Get off
again,
my
we're a
podcast.
podcast split, so we'll let that go. Oh, goodness. So just to kind of get started here, Doug, you're preparing to step away from being the mayor. What stands out the most when you kind of look back on your time in office?
As far as mayor, or,
Hey, dealer's choice. You can just take the question as you will.
well, I've been in public service for 37 years through the city and the state, and then finally with the city. I guess if we're talking about the city today, what stands out most is the amount of services that the city supplies that I think that people probably don't really even understand how much we do for them.
100%. No, that's a really good answer. Can you give us one example?
You look at your taxes, and everybody's house is, roughly has a taxes of an average of about $2,500 a year. I said, you divide that by, 12, you're paying, $200 to slightly over $200 a month. Well, most people have cell phone bills that are larger than $200 a month, but yet for some reason they believe their property taxes are unreasonable. And I look at it as that, look at all the services you get for that, which include, your public safety, police and fire. You also get snow removal, garbage, parks, the pool, all of those things are supplied by the city, and that's just the city's portion of your property taxes. There's also in there is the county, and schools are the largest portion of your property tax. So we supply a lot of services for the public that it's, pretty reasonably, and we do a pretty good job at it. Yes, you can complain about the streets, but the city's never reconstructed streets. We maintain them, but we do not reconstruct them. And so I think we've, done a really good job over the years. We've made streets that are only supposed to last, 20 years, last 75 years. And now it's time that we as a community need to stand up and start redoing those streets.
And I can confirm, as somebody who I don't live in the city, I live in the county, and I do not have garbage service. I would gladly pay $250 a month just for the
Just
garbage
for garbage service.
service.
Well, I think about, the snow removal alone. Um, you couldn't pay me $200 a snowstorm to even do my own sidewalk. That's my husband's job. Like,
Wait till your kid gets older, then you can do that.
yeah, 100%.
That's a good point, though. Like there is a lot that goes into it, um, that people don't realize they're getting a bargain.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have forgotten how communities are supposed to run. We've talked about that quite a bit on this podcast. That people are not educated on how communities work and how towns and cities, how their government is actually supposed to work, and what is their job and what is not their job. And I think that's really unfortunate because a lot of people just want things for free, and nothing gets done for free or cheap in general.
That's true. Um, is there any accomplishments that stand out that you're really proud of? Both county, state, city, anything. I mean, you're retiring, so you're done. You can look back at your whole career.
Um, you know, I'm not really sure. There's a lot of things that have been done. What I'm most proud of, I don't. There's just a lot of different aspects of what I've done over the years that I think have made a difference. But I'm not sure there's just one that stands out that's in my mind that says that, great job. I really appreciate doing that.
Pat yourself on the back
Yeah, I
moment.
don't.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I have one that he's done that he should be taking credit on. I've been meeting with the different supervisors of the departments, and there's some really impressive people working in our city government. And those folks have been um, able to do their jobs well, because they have the support of the local government. And I think that Doug, through his his time, has been able to hire some of those people and make sure that we do have really competent people in our city government. So thank you.
yeah,
Good point.
that is a really good point. I'm glad you bring that up because things only run as good as the leader of them. And I know that you haven't been in the mayor position for too crazy long, but I feel like you have really given a lot of very competent people great positions. And I think that you have shown that they are wanted and needed and good at what they do, and they've stuck around. So that's fantastic. But I think it goes further than that. I think you've set up, especially like our county, I think that a lot of people that still work at the county worked there when you were there. And I think that, you're part of hiring them and they do a great job now.
Well, thank you. But, my philosophy has always been that I'm not a micromanager.
That's the best way to lead.
And, and my job is to make sure they have the resources to do their job well.
Yeah.
And I think I've led by that pretty well.
So speaking of leadership, were there any challenges throughout your whole career in local government, but especially in the city, that shaped how you approached leadership?
I think I learned leadership back when I was at the county. I had good examples. I had commissioners that we worked really well together as commissioners, and I think I'd learned from the examples that the other two give, and we moved along really well. So I think I learned that clear back there. I didn't really learn it so much at the city. I'd like to think I had, had it kind of down by that point.
Makes sense. I like it.
So, what are some changes you've noticed in Havre, specifically just since being mayor or since working at the city?
I'm going to tell you the one that is probably most problematic for us, or for me, is social media.
Oh, yeah.
I find that social media has given it could be a good platform for discussion and debate, but instead we kind of made it we kind of weaponized it, and people can get on there and say whatever they want without being informed, and that has been really hard to combat because you really can't get onto social media and rebut any of that. It just doesn't seem to work.
That's true. It emboldens people, I think, that it's not a face-to-face conversation,
Mhm.
um, which just irritates me to because I look at something and I'm like, "That's not true. I wanna go correct this," and then I'm like, "Don't get down that rabbit hole. That's
Well,
just a terrible idea."
like you said, it could be a platform where people could have good discussion and debate, but it's not because I feel like people are just talking at each other and no one is actually listening. People don't take other opinions into account. And I guess that's not to say that no one does, but most people don't. They have their opinion, they're going to post it online. And if you don't agree with it, then you're just wrong, unfortunately.
This is citizen government, and at its finest at this local level, and we need to hear from the public, but the public also needs to hear from us because we're the ones in the trenches trying to make it work. And, we don't have all the answers, never have. And we kind of need that, the public to step forward and give us some ideas. And there's an old saying that says that if you complain without having a solution, it's just whining. And we need to do better at trying to have discussions about it rather than just pointing the finger and saying it's your fault.
We say that all the time to each other,
Mhm.
whenever we're talking about a project and we're like, "Oh, well, they're complaining about this," and then we have to remind ourselves, "Well, do they have a better idea? Do they have"
Yeah.
like, "Hit me with it."
That's my favorite thing, if you don't like my idea, come up with something else. And if you can't come up with something else, then I just don't care.
Or, I just don't
Yeah,
have the energy to entertain.
no, exactly, especially when it comes to trying to make things better. If you truly do have, the city's best interest at heart or your community in general, wherever you live, if you have their best interest at heart, that's great. That's wonderful. If you're just whining to whine,
Just a sad
just
sack.
to yeah,
Mm.
I mean, we see so many people like that, that nothing anyone does is good, and I think that, if you have that mindset, then, well, you need to go talk to somebody, I think. Not me.
I have noticed in my short tenure on the council that even with those that seem to be persistently negative, there's often a nugget of something that you do need to step back a little bit and take a breath and go, okay, they probably do have a point here. I don't care for how they brought it to me, but there is a nugget of truth, and it's probably something that other people have on their mind. So
And that goes back to your point of it being citizens government. I mean, you're right. It's sometimes frustrating as, when you're on the other side of trying to present the information, but they have a stake in it too. They have a right to voice their opinion, and, um, the beautiful nature of this is that we don't all have to agree on each other's opinions. That's why they're called opinions. Um, but it's sometimes hard to remember that. So that's a good point though that, it's not just ranting or whining to whine. We have to there is some validity to their concerns, and
And I think it's good to ask questions. If you don't understand something, definitely ask questions, but don't just assume that you know the answer or because Jeff down the street told you what the answer is, don't don't think that he might be the end all be all. Maybe he's not correct. Um,
just be nice, people.
yeah, just be nice, be curious. I think curiosity is wonderful. Um, but I think just being mean and being rude because you don't understand something is not fair. Because when it comes to local government, it's local for a reason. Local means your neighbor.
And that's our Sesame Street episode for the day. Be nice. Wade, you mentioned that you've been on the council for some time. What motivated you to take that leap forward and put your hat in for mayor?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that.
Well, I did.
When the city council was reviewing the revitalization master plan, I attended the meeting where they were to vote on it, and the individual representing my district had gotten the ear of several citizens that were very concerned about a particular element within that, and I was disappointed that that council person voted against it, without seeing the broader picture of the benefit of that document. And it was a recommendation, not a mandate. And it had a lot of really good recommendations brought to the council by a pretty diverse group of people who had spent a lot of time thinking about it and getting excited about it and building momentum toward it. And the idea that that could be lost in the weeds of a few really loud voices bothered me. And so I decided that if I didn't like it, I better step to the table and make my opinions known.
I think that is, again, the best reason to get into this because, again, if you don't like something, make the change, do it. You got a better idea, and tell people and get voted in. And congratulations on that because it's very exciting. I think you've got some wonderful ideas. So,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So when you found out that there was going to be a vacancy in the mayor, was there like something that just drew you to that, or?
Um, I think part of the reason I was drawn to running for mayor was that I knew the city was in a pretty good position with staffing and with kind of the progress that we've made on different issues. And personally, I was ready for some different challenges, and our families getting to an age where I have a little more flexibility with my time. My last child is now a driver, so I'm not having to.
I died a little inside when you said that. Does driving me crazy count? Because the time's there.
That doesn't go away. But so yeah, it just seemed like the right time to step up a bit.
Yeah, you definitely are. You're filling some big shoes, but it is a really good time, I think, to take over. I think that, there's a lot of great people in place that will be very helpful. Though, uh, when I have my last child, my only child as a driver, I think I'm going on vacation.
I'm gonna do that when I stop paying for daycare.
Fair. So, as you prepare to take office, what excites you about getting in as mayor, and what are you going to be most mindful of right off the bat?
Well, I guess what excites me the most is that we are finally making some progress on some of the infrastructure needs in our different neighborhoods, and have found a model I think that is beginning to make some traction in that regard. And that is the first step toward fixing some of the more visible issues that people are concerned about, is getting that subgrade infrastructure improved so that we can then you know be mindful and put our money into streets where we won't have to tear them back up again. Um, what was the second question?
You asked it. I don't know why I'm answering the question.
Just what are you excited about, and how? What are you going to be most mindful of taking over?
I think what I'm going to be most mindful of is that um, we do have a pretty limited pool to pull from to make the best use of those funds as we can. And having met with the few department heads that I have, I think all of them are very resourceful at stretching a penny into a dime and making the best that they can out of the limited funds that we have for them. But being mindful that um, every decision that we make um, as it affects our budgets can either be a benefit to those projects down the road or potentially, back us into a corner. And I want to be mindful of, making the best decisions and using the resources of the city wisely and making sure that our supervisors are are giving me the best information and have the best information they can to make sure that we're thinking a step ahead and trying to make sure that our projects are viable for not just today but down the road as we progress.
I like that. I think definitely the overpromising is difficult to avoid when you're going into any kind of government situation. And we've seen a lot of discourse, I think, especially on social media, when people are running for city council and such, they're kind of going on about, I'm going to make the city do this and um, overpromising their constituents what they could actually get done. Um,
I just came out of a campaign, right?
Yes, I do. I do, but I also know that you have not overpromised things. I think that you understand that the budget is quite limited. The city is not this multi-million-dollar cloud in the sky, and I
It's
think
true
it's good to
though.
know.
I mean, when my husband was running, he's a people person, like a people pleaser,
Yep.
which is hard to believe because we all know how delightful I am. But I had to like have him practice with me saying no. I was like, if somebody asks you, no, like it was like that's a complete sentence. You don't have to say any more because he would have done that. But you mentioned infrastructure, and I kind of want to circle back to this because people may not know that Havre is losing Doug as a mayor, but also Fairpaw Development is losing Doug as president of our board. And infrastructure is kind of our jam here. That's something that we do more, Julia, than me. I get all the pretty projects above ground, and she has to deal with all
All
the
of the
sewer.
deteriorating sewers.
But I mean, that's a good point, Doug. Have you seen a lot of, and maybe ARPA was a big shot in the arm for that too, um, a lot of strides in the infrastructure in the area lately?
Well, I guess everybody was inconvenienced through the summer with a very large project up in Highland Park and with the lead line replacement. Uh, yes, I mean the ARPA was a big part of that because that we were able to parlay several $1 million into a much larger project, and we got lucky with some other dollars, so we were able to parlay that into a very large project for this year. But I think we can continue to do that with as the public starts to understand SIDs and how we're going to make those work within neighborhoods. I think we can make those into large projects with limited dollars out of people's pocket. And we're hoping, and I think Wade mentioned it, is we've had a pretty good start with the Heritage Drive project and the one up in Highland Park. It looks like we will be probably doing some paving up there in the next couple of years with since they got the infrastructure project done, they can now improve their streets and sidewalks and for minimal amounts out of their pockets.
It really is creative problem solving with some of these funding. Um, and even though Julia does a lot below ground, um, there's a lot of projects I can't do until Julie is able to do her side
Yeah, we
and
have to
help the
get the
project.
the lower stuff fixed before anything pretty goes on top. Unfortunately, those projects take a lot of time. But what I have to say, you know, um, that huge infrastructure project in Highland Park, with that and the lead lines, it was $11 million. What does Trevor say? It's 6% of the town for the water, which is wild to me. $11 million is 6%. But I think the biggest um, stride that I have seen on the infrastructure side of things as you've been mayor is getting things put down on paper saying, this is what's wrong. These things are wrong. These are, our priorities. Because I think that it's been avoided. I think that everyone is scared of finding out what is wrong and putting a dollar sign next to it because it's scary. I mean, how are you going to fund those? And so I really appreciate you and the staff that you've worked with Public Works and such, for actually taking those leaps and putting it down on paper.
I certainly can't take credit for that. I mean, as mayor, it's we're required to do growth policies and look at
You
CIP
you'd be
program,
surprised at how many mayors avoid them anyways.
Yeah.
but we do them, and we've done them in the past, and the mayors before me have done them. So it's not just me, but mayors don't really do that much in their community. We're just one cog of that gear, and it takes it takes a team that makes things work at the city, and it's not only my department heads and the employees, but citizens have to step up and take the responsibility for part of it also, and and I see that happening now in the city.
Wade, have you looked into SIDs and such? I guess how much have you been able to educate yourself on those types of ways to fund infrastructure? And do you feel like we're going to be able to educate the public on?
Before you answer, though, Julia's speaking in acronyms
I'm
again.
so sorry.
We have to stop her every now and then. We speak in
Um,
acronyms in this world.
yeah, everything's acronyms. SID, Special Improvements District, which is basically a district that gets set up to do a project, and it raises the taxes in that district alone to do said project that will be done only in that district, over the course of so many years, depending on how large of a bond is needed.
I like to think of it as a co-op for infrastructure.
That's a great way to think of it, actually.
Probably not completely accurate, but in my brain that works.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the closest way to explain it. So have you had much education on that? Is that something you're gonna look to help push out towards the public?
I don't have a lot of background with them, but having um, worked, not worked, but having been a part of the council process with the SID for Heritage Drive, and then understanding a little bit more about some of the other SIDs for lighting districts and different things. Um, they're definitely an important tool to get some of those less glamorous things to move forward. Um, when we've tried the traditional method of getting a community um, ballot issue to move those projects forward and they fail, that's kind of our backup. Um, and I think that they're a very useful tool to make those happen. I worry a bit that using those in a more centralized, specific neighborhood by neighborhood way, that I want to make sure that we don't leave any neighborhoods behind, because the neighborhoods that have the ability to get that process going aren't necessarily always our lower income neighborhoods or our neighborhoods that don't have that kind of grassroots ability to make those happen. So I think we need to use them judiciously and make sure that we aren't um, allowing other neighborhoods to falter. And but yes, I think they're a good tool, and I think it's something we will definitely be using.
Well, I like that you bring up that, not every neighborhood can possibly afford it, or they just don't have the grassroots effort. And I think that comes back um, to the members of the city, and those of us that know that we can afford it, and those of us that know what kind of infrastructure is needed. I think that it's our responsibility to step up and make those things happen, so that the city isn't stuck trying to pass levies and raise everyone's taxes in town just for a small, or just trying to do one neighborhood at a time, and that money can be saved for the neighborhoods that maybe cannot get these things started. So I think that's just back on the community members. You need to you need to make it known what you are able to take on.
And like you two have mentioned, having done surveys and having some of that documented where there are bigger issues in our community, that definitely sets the priority. and helps us to prioritize and make sure that those areas are being addressed in a timely way.
What are you gonna do about the potholes? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think we need to have a competition to name them.
Ooh, great
Definitely.
idea.
George.
They should, yeah, like we did an interview with the dinosaur museum in Malta, and they had these hilarious names for all the dinosaurs. We should do that. We should have the banner above it. And, like one of them is Herb.
Did you say George or Gorge?
Gorge. That's Gorgie over there. You know what? We're doing this. Next festival days, we're having a competition.
Or like make them artistic.
Yes.
Bedazzle the potholes.
Who can fill it in better?
In a safe way.
In a safe way,
Yeah.
of course.
Yes. So you guys, both of you have been in Havre for quite a while, right? Your whole lives?
The area.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. What is your favorite like Havre activity? Or what's your favorite thing to do in Havre when you're not working? Like, is there a place you like to go? What makes Havre fun?
It kind of depends. I've been here my whole life, so when I was younger, I enjoyed snow skiing. I enjoyed going to Fresno and water skiing, and and the outdoor stuff more appealed to me. As I get older, this cold weather doesn't I don't enjoy it quite as much as I used to be outside. Circulation just doesn't make my arms or legs and hands very warm. But anymore, I think there's a ton of things that people can do. I'm getting to be more of a homebody as I get older.
That's fair. And personally, when I retire, I would love to be a snowbird because I don't like the snow either. The cold is just not, it's not great. But you did raise your kids here. What was the appeal of raising your kids here? You could have raised them anywhere.
Um, I think for us, education was an excellent education. Public schools and here in town, I think are very good. I think you guys were talking about having kids that were drivers. You weren't putting them out on the interstate and terrible traffic, and with they could have those minor fender benders without being at 60 miles an hour typically. And so we like the small town atmosphere, but I grew up here, so I don't really know any different. I like to visit other places, but I can't imagine living very many other places.
I like it. I think Havre is a homebody kind of city. Sarah, go ahead and tell your story about how you learned how to
Oh,
drive.
I wasn't gonna bring that up. No, but I grew up learning to do. I will though.
Yeah, do it.
I got my learner's permit, and then the next day, my dad drove me 2 hours south of where we lived, stopped at a rest area, made me drive, and he made me drive through St. Louis, turn around, and then drive back through St. Louis. And then by the time I got to the rest area, of course, I was like crying hysterically because it was terrifying. And then he drove me home. So
I would have puked.
I can drive anywhere.
It's hardcore.
Yeah, which is good because I married a farm boy who can barely drive in Great Falls. So
Now all my kids have left and are in big cities, and so I'm forced to drive those big cities also now.
yeah, there's a difference between can do it and enjoys doing
Mhm.
it. I miss it sometimes.
Not I. Makes me want to cry every time.
Wade, what about you? What are some of the things you enjoy doing in Havre?
Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Fort Assiniboine area. I just think it's a really impressive installation right in our backyard, and it has a really important past that is has very different connotations for our different communities. But it's an important reminder of where we came from and how Havre in this area came to be. And I think that it's it's nice that we have a group of people that are continuing to make sure that stays viable and uh, available for tourists. But just in general, I think for a community the size of Havre to be able to take a lap swim in the morning, ice skate in the evening, go bowling. We just have a really wide variety of opportunities for families for a community this size. and I think we should all be really proud of that.
Food.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
decently great food for
Whenever we have people come for work or anything, they are pretty impressed with our selection of food for
Yeah.
a small.
not just selection, but I mean the quality.
We always say how small Havre is.
Yeah,
I
it's
feel the
not.
need to reiterate. It is the 8th largest town in Montana.
Yeah.
Well, not that small.
But like Doug brought up with the school district, I think the school district is great, and I like that our children get a variety of things to do, but they can still play multiple sports. They can be involved in so many different things, and then as a parent, you still get to have your voice heard by the school district, and I think that's very, very nice. I think they do a great job, even when it's hard.
And it shows in the kids around here too.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
does.
I was only able to coach for 1 year, but there's some good kids around here. Like, I enjoyed that. I lost track where we.
So, Doug, what advice would you give to Wade as he steps into this role?
Well, I probably have a couple.
Run, don't do it.
One is I would never answer anonymous complaints. I just don't do it. If you're not willing to put your name on it and own up to it, it's not worth my time to deal with. The other one is when you're making a decision, you need to make that decision in a timely fashion. Make it with the information you have today and get it done. Your department heads, they don't come to you for just anything. They come when they need an answer, and so they expect one and they need it in a timely fashion. If it's wrong, we can fix it because you've got more information, but at the time, make it with the information you have and get it done. Don't sit back and go, "I'm gonna think about this and not get it done." They just need to get an answer.
That seems fair.
Actually, when you have qualified department heads, I mean, they've
Yes.
probably got most of it figured out by the time they come to you with the problem.
Yeah, I like that you say, that you can fix it later. Something goes wrong, you can fix it. Most things in not just in city, but in life are not that serious and can always get fixed down the road.
I think that's the number one thing whenever somebody makes a mistake around here and they're freaking
Mhm.
out about it. I'm always like, did anyone die?
Yeah.
No?
Did it
Okay.
blow up?
Yeah.
No? Okay, fix it.
Has there been a catastrophic ending to this, or are you just mad at yourself? Get over it.
See, I thought Doug was going to say that he'd changed his phone number so I couldn't ask any questions, which would probably be fair because I've warned him. I will list them, put them on a list and hit you all at once with a bunch of questions, but they're coming.
Like a weekly coffee date where you
Yeah,
just,
there you go.
you vent about everything. I think that's a good idea.
Oh my goodness.
So Wade, what are you taking away from watching Doug over these years as you step into this role to help you move forward?
I think the rapport that Doug has in the office with staff tells me that he's approachable, that he's available, and I think having a mayor that is available, that Doug's been very, very available in the office to be present and be there for the department heads and for the community to find, is something that I will try and, as best I can, emulate. And I think being fairly even keel is something I will strive for. I can't say I will do it, but I will try to be an even force for good, I guess we'll say.
That's what I tell myself every time I go into public meetings. You're going to just keep a straight face and be even keeled. And sometimes it works, and other times I
Do you Stuart
lose it.
Smiley it every morning?
Huh?
Stuart Smiley. Am I really old here?
I don't know what that
Where
is.
You look in the mirror and you say, you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you.
You
These are
won't cry. You
affirmations.
won't cry. You won't cry. That's what I do.
Courtesy of Saturday Night Live from the 90s. I'm old. So this question's for both of you, and you can kind of go one at a time. that if you had to pick one of Havre's biggest strengths, what would you say that it is? You can flip a coin or Rochambeau for who wants to go first.
Oh no, a fist fight. What's happening?
I'm going to go with community. You typically know most people in the community, and 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 they pretty much are on the same line as you are. Yeah, we have those that are a little bit harder to deal with than others, but in most part, I get it back from the community that, hey, thanks, you're doing a great job. And I also want to say that it's it's not me, the mayor, doing it. It's everybody at the city doing the job they're supposed to do, and they work really hard at doing that. I mean, we have 102 full-time employees with the city, and it shows. We make sure that that we need every one of those people. They do a great job, and that's what makes this community run smoothly.
That number was very surprising to me. 102 people at the city.
I guess when you
That's
factor in police and
it's both
fire.
more
Yeah.
and less than I assumed.
It's 105 or 102 full-time, but we
Wow.
shoot up to, I don't know, somewhere around that 135, 140 in the summertime with our part-time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That makes the city of Havre a major employer for
A very major
Havre.
employer. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm like, wow, that seems like more than I would have thought, but also it seems like less than it would take to run a city.
You can tell we worked in economic development for a few years because of everything you said. We're like, wow, that's a lot of look at the job creation that the city's doing.
We love job
Well,
creation.
we've got one track line. So, Wade, what about you? What do you see as Havre's biggest strength?
Well, I would probably echo Doug. I think our community is strong because of the quality of people that live here, um, and maybe that is because we have to be hardy to live here. I don't know. some some days I think that our environment is out to get us, but this community, like I said, offers a lot of opportunity, and that is because people are willing to put in the effort to make sure that those opportunities are here. Um, we have a pretty diverse economy in terms of small rural America. We have our strength from the railroad, from our agriculture, to have a solid education institution through higher ed. Um, it's a lot of positives for an area as remote as we are, to have all those opportunities, and we have a lot of good people here. So
We do have great people here. I mean, that's one of the reasons most people like Havre, right? It's why Havre, it's the people is such a big slogan for
Not in
us.
anymore.
We're keeping
We
it
talked about
anyway.
this, Julia.
I'm so sorry. So, how can the partnerships with the community, but also like those that are between the city and Bear Paw and other local businesses, help Havre move forward and become even better than we are?
I think um, our strength is from our willingness to work with each other, um, and not just within Havre, with our partners at the university system, our partners in our neighboring communities, that know that for our region to grow and to prosper, we have to help each other and take advantage of what resources we have, and share those strengths. So yeah, I think it's those partnerships that definitely do structure our growth and our strength.
What is the mayoral term? When is the next?
Is it 4 years?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
It's a
4 year cycle.
4-year term.
So, in the next 4 years, what do you like if you could get a dream thing done, something that the city does, what would that be?
Your white whale.
Your white whale. We gave you all the
Pardon.
money in the world.
Pardon my literary reference there. But
I think Havre has given up a fair amount of our ability to retain and attract people because we don't have an event center that will allow us to host larger events, whether it's sporting, trade shows. And when we lose those kind of things to communities, much smaller in scope and size than we are, I think that tells us that that is, something that would benefit our community. Um, and and with those, like we were talking about partnerships, there's probably ways that we can utilize the facilities and strengths of our institutions that are planning to expand and build to bring some of that in. But definitely that's not having a larger venue to host events leaves some money on the table for us.
And we've talked about that in the episode we did talking about the TIF district with John Morgan from Pioneer, where we're a Class A school, so
We should be hosting
should be.
huge.
But when you look at the data, we don't have enough hotel rooms
No.
to house all of the teams and families and everything, which is one of the goals of the TIF district. We would love to see the development of a new hotel on the east end of town, which is prime for development. And that's my soapbox because I love the idea of bringing in more events and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Great.
And I think that really goes to show like how intertwined and interconnected everything in the city is, right? You can't just do one thing and say, okay, that'll do it. It's kind of a pile on top of each other and make everything better one thing at a time.
So as we wrap up, I just have one question for each of you that I think is kind of fun. What are you going to do, Wade, with your last 2 weeks of freedom? Because we are recording this. I had to look at the date on December 18th. So you have 2 weeks of not being the mayor.
Freedom is used loosely there. I have a farm that needs to try and move product and get commodities ready to sell and to the elevator. So that's probably what I'll be doing, since evidently the bank wants me to pay back those loans they've given me.
That's so selfish.
And then, Doug, what are you going to do with your first 2 weeks of freedom after the first?
Hawaii,
I'm just going to
Bahamas.
sit around and eat bonbons and sit on the couch and maybe go to a city council meeting as a public.
Eating some popcorn.
As a member of the public,
As a
I
member of
don't
the public.
suggest.
Can you boo? Can you heckle? That would be really funny.
We already talked about that.
Oh.
We agreed that was off the
Not
I think
table.
I think I was somewhat banned from coming.
all that Sarah and I want to see from literally anyone is for someone, when someone says something really outlandish, for someone else to go, no, and that's it.
So the reason that came up is I had a college professor and he was terrifying because he was brilliant. And it was like a smaller class and it was a discussion class. And you would say something. And if you said something wrong, he would just like make eye contact with you and point at you and say, no, and then move on. And it killed you inside. I was so prepared for that class because I did not want Professor Mayer to point at me and say, he only did it once. So
I do want to say, though, that he's probably busier in the last 2 weeks with the city than I am, because meeting with department heads and going forward. And I'm, they don't even come to me anymore. They just call him because he's going to be making the next decision in their departments.
Are you showing up to work in your sweatpants or something? Like, what's going on here?
No, I'm pretty casual, though.
You just
It's
got
getting pretty slow for me.
a sign on the door that says retired. Go away.
We actually don't even have an office right now. So
Oh no!
You already moved out?
they're remodeling over there. So, they wanted to make sure the new mayor felt real welcome. So they made a new office.
I don't care how you feel in the last little bit.
He's feeling so itinerant that he put his computer on a cart so he could move it where he needed to be.
Mobile mayor.
Oh no, my cart rolled home.
Well, Doug and Wade, thank you both for taking the time to join us and sharing your perspectives during this important transition for the city of Havre.
Doug, thank you for your years of service and leadership. And Wade, we wish you the very best as you step into this role.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you're not done with us because apparently you're going to be taking over our board role, right? for the city of Havre?
As a board member, not
The
board
board member.
president.
Yet.
Yet you think.
So, just as a reminder to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Bear With Us. Again, we're the podcast from Bear Pod Development, where we highlight the people and leadership shaping North Central Montana.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes and share this one with anyone interested in the future of Havre.
And as always, thanks for bearing with us.